If you are making any one of these 5 huge mistakes in your language learning journey, you could be missing the opportunity to reach your next level in your journey towards fluency. I made these 5 mistakes this past year as I've been learning Chinese, and now you can learn from my mistakes. Watch the video all the way to the end so that you can find the best solutions for these problems that you're experiencing. Let's go! The first mistake that I made was the fact that I had no specific plan or specific goal. So let me talk to you about the reason that I started learning Chinese. I got my job as a tutor for teaching English, and my mentor told me that I should learn Chinese so that I can attract more students and it could earn me more money. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So I download Duolingo and try to get some basic Chinese in just to say that I'm working towards it. But I didn't really feel like I really wanted to learn Chinese or reach some sort of goal by a certain point. I just was learning aimlessly. And this was a problem because I lost motivation. I realized that I wasn't learning what I should be learning, and I wasn't even applying what I was learning. I was learning, but I wasn't using any of it. And I saw myself making no progress because I had no goal. I started to realize that I need to make a goal. And why? Because people started asking me, so why are you learning Chinese? And then my head would be like, okay, why am I learning Chinese? Because it was for my job, but it was other reasons too. Like, I just thought it was cool. I thought it was cool to be able to speak Chinese because I'm a white person, and I liked the idea of impressing people. So I started getting attached to that feeling. But the key to making goals is that it needs to be specific and it needs to have some sort of time frame. So this can be very up to you. For me, my Chinese goal is to be conversationally fluent in the next 3 years. And now, here's the biggest part of it. Goals change, and that's completely normal. You don't have to feel bad about not reaching a certain point by that time frame, because life happens. We go through different life situations and plans just change, and that's how it is. But it's good to have some sort of pathway you want to follow so that you can continuously make that progress. When I did not have a goal, I would learn some words and I didn't really know what to do with it. I just said, okay, I learned some words, that's it for the day. But it's not practical, and eventually you'll burn out, see that there's no purpose in learning it, and then you'll just stop doing it and you'll start prioritizing other things. Other things I want to mention about my journey with Chinese and my lack of goal, the effect that it had was that I was really walking aimlessly, and let me talk a little bit more about that. Because I didn't have any teacher for a few months. I was searching for teachers, and when I found that there was no teacher to help me, no teacher that made me feel good, I was like, oof, no, I don't want to do this. This is so overwhelming. And if you ever experience this stress when learning your target language, take a break. It's totally okay to take a break, take some space away from it so that you don't get overwhelmed. I needed that. So there were some months where I just didn't learn Chinese. I didn't really put in the work. But I did follow some accounts on Instagram, and that gave me a nice little casual way to get some more exposure to my listening and get more familiar with how to pronounce certain things. So in that way, I was kind of learning more passively. But again, it wasn't consistent, and I wasn't making real progress because I was never taking any notes and I was never using what I was learning. I would basically forget within the next 10 minutes. And at that point, that's a waste of time. It's more of a hobby than anything. And I started to realize I don't want this to just be my hobby. I want a return on investment. So I want to put my time and energy into something, and I want to get something back from it. I want to earn something, not money per se, but I want to see some sort of payoff. And that could be using that with some friends and having them laugh, or building some sort of connection because of something that I learn in Chinese. That sort of payoff is exactly what drives your goal. So I want you to think about whatever excites you about learning the language. For me, it's being able to talk to a native speaker, say something to them, and get that really awesome reaction like, oh my gosh, you speak Chinese really well, and maybe get a laugh out of them from me saying something. That's long term. If I'm able to relate to them in that target language, oh, that would be amazing. So think about that and give it some time. It might take some days to develop that, especially if your goals are influenced by people around you, like your parents, your friends, your siblings. Don't listen too much to the people around you. Start listening to yourself and what you want to do. It's good to have some sort of inspiration from other people, but don't get too caught up in why other people are learning English or learning whatever language that they're learning, because that might not work for you. Just because they want to get a certain band on the IELTS doesn't mean like you have to set that goal as well. So stick to you, feel good about it, and follow through with it. And it's okay if it changes. Thankfully, now I have a goal in Chinese. And right now, I have 3 reasons. It's to teach beginners, it's to make people surprised, and it's to communicate and relate to Chinese speakers on a deeper level. And now that I have those 3 things written down for me to see, I can remind myself why I'm doing this. Always remind yourself why you're doing something, because when you ask yourself, why should I learn English today? You'll lose motivation. You won't be consistent. We do this. We as people, it's just not just you. You're not some sort of broken human being. We go through these fluctuations of motivation, and I have been through this sort of roller coaster a lot, where I get excited, I work towards it, and I fall back down. But as long as you have that goal in front of you, motivating you, charging you, and guiding you, you can keep making that progress. Mistake number 2 is that I didn't get a professional teacher from the start. Okay, so by the time that I was starting to learn Chinese was when I first got my job. And when I first got my job, I was not making that much money. And it really doesn't matter how much money you make, because even though I was making a pretty good amount of money, I decided to not get a teacher by that point, because I said, okay, I've already tried looking for a teacher and I wasn't successful, so I might as well just do it by myself. I'm very independent minded, so I said, okay, I'll just figure it out, just like I did with Spanish. Wrong, I didn't do it by myself in Spanish. By the way, time out. Just to let you know, I learned Spanish 6 years ago with my mom. And as you can see, I didn't do it by myself. I had the guidance from my mom. I always asked her questions. Anytime I wanted to know a word or a phrase, I just asked her immediately. It was like an immediate translator. But I didn't have this in Chinese. I did have people who offered it to me, many people, but I never wanted to take advantage of that, you know? I just didn't feel that way, and that's my personality. But don't feel bad about reaching out for help. You need it. I mean, you're setting a goal for this big thing. You need some sort of guidance, some sort of motivation, and someone to hold you accountable for your goals. So having a good teacher, not only who's qualified, certified, okay, that's great, but do they make you feel comfortable? Do they explain things clearly enough? And if they get frustrated with you, because I had a lot of teachers who would get frustrated with me, not frustrated, but lacked the patience to walk me through certain concepts. And it's hard to find, but it's worth the search, because once you find that teacher, wow, it changes everything. It changes everything. It even changes the way you look at the simple act of studying and reviewing and putting what you learn into practice. That is what I felt when I finally found my teacher just like, a month and a half ago. Oh, my ideal teacher. If I could take a class with her every single day, I would. But you know who can't afford that? Me. But no worries. No matter what your budget is, there's someone out there. I guarantee you. You just have to search. And if you want some help, I'm right here. So take advantage of my free content as well. You're already doing that. So hooray for you. Another thing to mention is that as I didn't have a teacher, I was taking advantage of the free content on Instagram, on YouTube, on Duolingo. And while it did help, I didn't have that structured progress. And because of that, I didn't know how to form a simple sentence. And this is a very basic skill that I should know. But because I didn't have those structured lessons and the structured guidance, I didn't know how to do that. And this should have been something that I worked on from the start. All right, so my third mistake is that I had high expectations. I had very high expectations, and I've been like this my whole life. I set a goal and I say, yes, I'm going to be the best at this. And this is partially because a lot of people give me so much praise. Hannah, you're so good at this. Hannah, you're amazing. Hannah, oh my gosh, great job, keep up the good work. And this is amazing to have. I'm very blessed to have people in my corner to encourage me. But, and this, I'm not blaming it on the people around me, I'm also blaming it on myself. I create my own pressure. And I say, yes, I am putting all these hours in. That means I have to be this good. Since I've been learning Chinese for a whole year, I should be this good. But no one has to be any certain level by any certain point. That's all. Everyone is different. So, and everyone has different lives. And I have a busy life, and I'm sure you do too. I felt like I learned a lot, but when I would go into class, I would be freaking out like, 我不知道, 我不知道, 我不懂, 我不懂. And it was so frustrating because by the end of the class, I would just cry and realize how little I actually know. But no need to worry. Everyone starts from zero. Everyone starts from zero, and no one has to reach 100 by 5 months or 2 years or 10 years. No one has to reach that point. So be easy on yourself. You are making amazing progress. And if you feel that you haven't, just take the step. Take the next step. And if someone judges you for it, that's on them. They obviously don't know how hard it is. Because learning a language while balancing a whole life on the side is incredibly challenging. And I know that. So realize how far you've come. A good way of doing that is to keep note of everything that you learn. And for those days when you're like, oh, I'm so stupid, I learned nothing, I'm making no progress, just look at your notes. Look at everything that you've been learning. And you'll be like, oh, never mind. Never mind. I've actually been learning things. And that's where the magic happens. And you won't be so hard on yourself because you are incredibly intelligent. And you're doing the best you can with what you have. And I know that. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth mistake that I made during my Chinese journey throughout this past year is I was afraid with my teachers. And that fear derived from that high expectation. I took classes where they would perform the entire class in Chinese. And since I was a pure beginner, and I still am, since I'm a beginner, that was incredibly challenging for me. I had so much fear to speak up because there were times when they would ask me something very simple that I knew. Like, 谢谢你. I froze. I completely froze, which is something very basic and something that I know the response to, which is 不可以, 不可以, right? And I knew this, but several times, time and time again, I would freeze. And it's because of that mental pressure, again, that I put on myself. And I shouldn't have this pressure because the teacher is there to help me. The teacher isn't there just to entertain me or make me feel scared. And if they are there to make you feel scared, that's kind of a disaster. Don't take a teacher's class that makes you feel scared. Now, another thing is that the teacher might be great and we still create this fear in ourselves. And that's just on us. So just be sure to breathe and know that you know what you know. And if you make a mistake, we all make mistakes. All of us do. Even the smartest guy in the room makes mistakes. And as long as we release ourselves from the pressure of not making mistakes, life is so much easier. And if you think that your teacher has a certain idea of your level, don't think about that. Because I remember when I said to my teacher, yeah, I've been learning Chinese for X amount of months, I was like, oh, this teacher probably thinks that I'm pretty good. So I have to respond well. I have to make sure that I remember all the phrases that I've been learning, and I have to respond quick so that I can show him or her that I've been learning and applying what they've been teaching me. But when I told myself that, it was just insane amount of pressure and stress in my own brain because I had like 100 different phrases in my head to be prepared for responding with. And whenever my teacher would ask me a question, I would be like, I couldn't get it out of my head. And so this is where meditation really comes to my benefit. Now, you probably don't like meditation, which is totally normal. There's a lot of people that say it doesn't work for them. But I just wanted to put it out there because it has worked for me so much, just because I'm a very anxious person even today. But I have my strategy of being able to release that through meditation. That's a non-language related tip for you. The classes were fast-paced, not to mention. My classes, whenever my teachers would ask me a question, I would struggle and find the response. I would respond, and then they'd be like, oh, okay, da-da-da-da-da, and change the topic completely before I had the chance to write down what they wrote. And if you ever get a teacher like that, it's better off to just say no, because if you're feeling like you're having a complete adrenaline rush the whole time, I would say that's a big no-no for me. But at the same time, you do need a little bit of a challenge. So the key is to have a class that's not completely chill and relaxed, because you're not gonna grow. There needs to be a balance between a class that makes you feel relaxed and a class that makes you feel challenged. And it'll take time, but I swear to you, it is so worth it. Also, in your class, you should be very open to ask questions. Never have any sort of fear of asking questions. And I want to remind you that asking questions is a sign of intelligence. It is not a sign of stupidity. There's a lot of people who express this sort of idea that if you ask questions, that means you're stupid because you don't know. Which is completely wrong, because the more questions you ask, the more you find out. And for those people that act like they know everything and they don't ask any questions, they're not digging deeper. So for my students that have been skyrocketing in their level, it's usually because they are always asking questions and they don't let it make them scared. Because I know there's a lot of people, including myself, I experienced this. I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the class. But again, your teachers are there for you. It's not for them. So ask as many questions as you want. And if the teacher gets frustrated, it's time to find another one. The fifth mistake that I made is that I was not consistent. Oh my gosh, Hannah, you weren't consistent, but you talk about being consistent all the time. I know. And you can call me an imposter. It is absolutely insane. But I've learned a lot through this. The thing is, I preached a lot about it because I was very consistent with my Spanish, because I had someone to ask all the time. So practicing was very easy, asking questions was very easy, and that's the key. If you want consistency, you have to make the habit very easy for yourself. If there's any sort of barrier or friction that's making it more challenging, that's gonna hold you back. You have to make whatever habit that you want to work on, make it as easy as possible and make it as attractive as possible. If you say, I have a busy life, I don't have enough time for learning English, that's an excuse. And I hate to break it to you, but it is the truth. We all have 24 hours in a day, but we all prioritize different things. And it's completely okay if you're not prioritizing English, because I didn't prioritize Chinese. I have a lot of priorities, and I'm sure you do too. So feel free to get a paper, write down all of your priorities. Mark it 1, 2, 3, 4, and rank that. And in another video, I'm actually going to create a strategy on how to structure your schedule so that you can optimize your time. Just to give you some insight on what I do to optimize my time is in the morning when I'm doing my makeup, I play a podcast that is in Chinese, and it'll have a dialogue, a very simple dialogue. It'll go through the different phrases. And as I'm doing my own makeup and getting ready, I'll be listening to that. Now be careful, because when you're multitasking, your focus isn't completely on what you should be focusing on, which in my case is the podcast. So I make sure to replay it twice, just because there may have been some info, some words and some phrases that I missed out on because I wasn't focused. Because multitasking seems like you're getting more done, but studies have proven that that's actually not true. So be careful, but it's a good tip to try. Another way that I stay consistent is that after I have my class, I'll review the recording of my class while I'm brushing my teeth. And brushing your teeth is actually a really good time to do whatever habit that you want, that you can, at the same time that you're brushing your teeth, because brushing your teeth is the one thing that we do twice every day. So I usually do that at nighttime, and that seems to be very effective for making that content that we covered in that class sink into my long-term memory, and it should do that for you as well. So try it out. I love doing that because it's effective. All right, so here's the overview of the entire solutions pack for all of these pain points that you're experiencing. Number 1, create a plan. Know the motivation behind your learning journey. Why are you doing this? Find something that makes you excited and create a time frame. And always remember that it's okay if that plan or that goal changes. Number 2, find a qualified teacher that helps you feel comfortable and challenged at the same time. Number 3, don't feel bad for not knowing something. There's no level that you have to be at by any certain point, and be proud of how much progress you made at this point. And remind yourself of the progress that you've made by keeping track of that progress. Number 4, don't be afraid. Ask questions. Feel good about your growth. And number 5, find a consistent plan that fits your lifestyle. If you made it to the end of this video, congratulations. This is a big sign that you're gonna make some huge growth in these upcoming months. Go ahead and put it in the comments if you're gonna try any of these tips, and also comment if you have been making any of these mistakes as well. I hope I'm not alone, so go ahead and let me know. If you loved this video, go ahead and watch this next video about ways that you can stay consistent in your English progress for busy people. See you there. Bye.